have to go down there. Get on, you know, stuff. Right here? Do I have?
Oh, good.
Right here?
Yep.
Thank you. Now we're live, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I think it's 4:45.
I will call a CRT meeting to order. It's May 10th, 4:45, and it's 4:45. We'll call a roll of office. I want to make one announcement first to everybody that everybody here at the government center that's in this meeting has been vaccinated, and we feel safe, and that is why none of us are wearing a mask today. And we will proceed then with Michelle calling the roll call.
We have all committee members except Tom Quinn, as well as Chairman Bartlett, and then online we have County Manager Miller, Catherine Emanuel, Louisa Duracimo, and Luann Downs and Kimberly McKay.
Thank you, Michelle. And Tom Quinn will be joining us online. He is not able to join us right now. As soon as Tom is available, he'll be joining us. So we're happy to have everybody here, and County Board Chair David Bartlett especially. I want to first say thank you to the staff here for taking a lot of pressure off me when I got here early to set up. They did it and made it comfortable. So to all of you, and it's much appreciated. We are kind of being the first committee to be meeting this way, so I guess we'll hope we can make it smoothly so that in the future there can be more of our committee meetings held in person. I certainly appreciate it having it this way. I've had a good chance to visit with some of you again, and for the first time to meet you and face to face. So that's really good. And Larry Bjork, you're online or at home, and that's really good. So we will commence with the rest of our meeting. Thank you to Michelle again for being our recording secretary, and we will hear from you a little later too, Michelle. So thank you. You've had a chance to read the minutes from our last meeting, and I would entertain a motion to approve these minutes.
I need a motion to approve the minutes as is.
Moved by Supervisor Zons,
Second.
seconded by Supervisor Baldo. Any corrections, additions, comments? If not, all will say approval by saying aye.
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 Minutes are approved. All right, now it's time for public comment, and I do know that we have one public comment, so Michelle is going to read to you public comment. Michelle?
From Terry Nichols from the town of Colfax, sent a email public comment. It says, "Dear Chairperson Anderson, I'm attaching an email from Bob Boucher of Wisconsin DPI. I hope anyone interested in broadband will read the attached document. In this document, there are links to resources and a past Zoom meeting of the DPI. School districts are playing a bigger role in broadband than in the past, and many school districts have created data of where the broadband gaps are located. School districts participate in a program called E-Rate and have for some time. The name of the game is partnering within the community, both public and private, businesses, county and town local governments. In this period of history, the millions of dollars that will be available have never been equaled. Jaron McCollum, director of the PSC, has stated that the details should be known related to federal money about the middle of May for federal programs related to broadband. We can't forget the local ISPs and their involvement. If Dunn County is thinking of taking a leadership role, then the time is now. If Dunn County is going to take an active role, then it needs to come up with resources and define what these resources are."
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Terry. I would ordinarily not comment on public comments except to say that I've received numerous things from other people and then always invited them to come in and make public comment like we just heard from Terry. Thank you. Now we will move into staff reports. And it's always a pleasure that we can hear from one of our extension specialists. And today we're going to hear about our 4-H program in Dune County. So I'm happy to introduce our 4-H educator, Larissa. Larissa, you're on.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me tonight. I've prepared a very short presentation. I could go on a lot longer, but I'm going to limit myself because I know you have a full agenda. I just want to say that it's been an interesting time in 4-H. It's also been an amazingly busy time, which is wild considering that there was a whole almost year where we weren't really getting together in person. The reason it's become so busy, though, is that we've had to switch how we do 4-H. It's not like we stopped doing 4-H. We just had to figure out a new way to do 4-H. And some of that has rested on the availability or non-availability of broadband. So I'm gonna, is it okay to share my screen now, Michelle? Getting there. Okay. Can somebody give me a thumbs up that you can see my presentation? Okay, excellent. always good to ask because sometimes you start presenting and people are like, no presentation, what? All right, so here's your quick update. I thought I'd be funny and start with the bad news and then tell you actually, we really don't have a lot of bad news. This is pretty much all good news. The clubs have started meeting again with the COVID numbers dropping and with a better understanding of the pandemic and with vaccinations starting to be in place, we are getting permission for groups to meet. And for a while there, that was a lot of what I did was running the paperwork behind that and helping people make for a safety plan for their club and file that at the state. And we had quite a bit of the administration end, and that has blessedly kind of released. And I think it's made the club leaders really happy. So we're starting to see people doing more planning, and you'll see a few pictures of some of the things that we have going on. And our participant numbers, surprise, surprise, as soon as people start getting together and having fun, they get back into the 4-H and enroll themselves. So our participant numbers are going up. So a quick run through the numbers. Just recently made getting together easier. So that was about mid-April. So we're about a month in, and I've noticed Michelle and I, we always get like a bump up around May 1st because that is when you have to sign up for your projects that you plan to take to the fair. So you must have your projects in 4-H online by May 1st. And so we did see a little flurry there, and that brought our numbers up to a grand overall total of about 74.33% of where we were last year. And that's reflected pretty much all over the state. I think the state average is just slightly higher than ours. Ours is higher if we count the adults and the youth. Ours is higher than the state. We did a good job hanging on to our volunteers. We would like to bring people back into 4-H. So that's going to be on the menu of things that we're going to get going here. So one of the exciting things that's happening is a summer day camp at Pleasant Valley Cleghorn. We normally have an overnight camp with a cooperative effort with Eau Claire County. And we recruit camp counselors, we train camp counselors, and then we have a bunch of kids, anywhere from 75 to 85, 90 kids at Beaver Creek. And with the pandemic and all the requirements for how to meet safely, at this point, it just seemed impossible. We're one of the first overnight camps to happen. It happens, ours happens to be in early June. And so with the requirements that were necessary, we just couldn't make that happen. But we had planned ahead. Rachel and I actually had 2 different sites reserved, a day camp site and an overnight site. So we were able to let our reservation at Beaver Creek go and pick up our reservation at Pleasant Valley Cleghorn, which if you haven't been there, is off the Eleva exit, far side of Eau Claire, really easy to get to, very nice facility. And so we're taking enrollments for that camp right now. It'll be for kindergarten through 8th graders. And then we have 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade camp counselors already hired basically. And by hired, I mean they're volunteering, but we're training them. And we started doing some training online, and then we'll be moving to in-person training as we get closer to camp. And then I just found out that 4-H softball is probably back on the menu, looking like it's going to happen in June or July. And that was a big question mark. So I think there are going to be some people pretty excited to get outside and, work together as a team and learn some things about shared sports participation. So we're looking forward to that. Now, I know everybody wants to know about the Dune County Fair. And my bullet is more shall be revealed. This is my sister Andrea, who teaches yoga. She's very good at getting into like the peaceful stage of things, as you imagine for a yoga instructor might be. It's hard to plan anything, as y'all know. I did talk to Deb, our Gottliebson, our president, and she's pretty upbeat about we are probably going to have a fair, working with the Dune County Health Department. Some of this rests on how well our county does with vaccinations, and that will allow us to have more people getting together. But right now, we're looking at Dune County Fair, much more like what we're used to, and that is something to celebrate. And also we're doing a theme which I think you should know about, which is celebrating 136 years. I think that's something to be very proud of. And 4-H itself is over 100 years old in our county. So we have a long and storied history, and we hope to share some of that this summer at the fair. So welcome to the new world of 4-H, pandemic style. So when all of this hit, Rachel, my colleague in Eau Claire, and Heidi, my colleague in Chippewa, and I all report to Catherine Emmanuel in Area 6 for extension. And one of the best things to come out of COVID, yes, there were some good things, is we have been working so much more closely together, very cooperative, generating ideas, figuring out how to share resources, how to do things more efficiently, economically, how to make 4-H happen for people who were really left out there for a while. Kids were isolated, families were going crazy. So last fall, we dreamed up something which I originally called 4-H in a box, but then we discovered that packing boxes, you have to put the boxes together. It was horrible. So no more 4-H in a box. Throw out the box, but not that basic idea, which is get people to sign up for a series of mini classes, sometimes with a theme, sometimes it was a different thing each week, like a way to discover 4-H. That was the first one we did. And we packed up everything into a box or a bag, which you can see in the picture. I'm packing a big red bag there. And then the 4-H educators managed to deliver or have pickup for families all over 3 counties. And then the classes would start. So every Monday or every Thursday or every Tuesday. And we had, some of them were very age segmented. Some of them were more broad age. We had art classes, we had cookie classes, we had some STEM and science things going on. Some of these were with the 3 counties right here, and some were with, I don't remember all the names of the areas, but it was like 9, 10 different counties. And again, this is something good that I think has come out of COVID, is that ability to pivot, change how we're doing things, and cooperate. So the cute little kid picture there, I just want to give a shout out to UW Stout. We had a active 4-H mom and a 4-H alum reach out to me this winter, and we were able, on a very short turnaround time, help UW Stout art educators get students to teach. And imagine how tough it would be to get a whole crew of people out into schools when the schools are not really meeting. So they needed kids to teach, and we needed teachers. So we got together, the 3 counties, and we ended up enrolling 75 youth. And we had, I don't know, 7, 8 youth educators and 2 art ed professors. And poor me, not that great at technology, I got to host all these Zooms and get kids into 4 different classrooms with the appropriate teachers and the right ages. And you can imagine the first 10 minutes of every Monday night was a little wild. I quickly realized that I named the breakout rooms and then let people pick. And every single week there'd be somebody who got in the wrong one or couldn't remember which one they were in. So it was pretty wild, but we had a very good time. And the comments coming back from that on the survey were just fantastic. When can we do it again? We're so sorry it's over. We had so much fun, and lots of comments about the great art that they made. So really, I think the main message I want to get across to you is that some things in 4-H are different and some are very much the same. Kids being cute, puppies, definitely the same. Adult youth partnerships, still happening, and getting together is harder. Clearly it's harder. Like just us this evening trying to figure out, are we safe to be in one room together, masks, no masks? 4-H has quite a lot of rules about how we get together, and that makes figuring out how to schedule things more work on the part of our volunteers. And that is something that I will not sugarcoat. It has been really, really tough. But I think getting together is worth it. And little by little, we have more clubs saying, yeah, let's do this. So we're busy doing 4-H. We're just doing it a little differently. We had an outdoor campfire songs weekend before last at Hoffman Hills. It was very well attended with a lot of younger families. I don't know if you can see in that picture, but they're the younger kids. And the lady in purple came all the way from Minnesota. She's a middle school teacher who's also a 4-H alum, and went to school and did 4-H with the club leader for this club is Ideal. And the club leader's wife right there is CJ. She's standing in the back next to the guy with the green shirt. Parents were very involved, of course, with younger kids. And Haley from Minnesota taught adorable songs, and she was such a middle school teacher. She never left anybody out. She got everybody involved. There was one kid whose name started with a U, and he was supposed to pick a name of an animal that started with the same letter as his name. And he was sitting there moping, and she walked up to him and she said, Uller, what's the problem? And he said, I don't know any animals that start with U. And she pops off with unicorn. Tonight, you're a unicorn, and unicorns are real as far as I'm concerned. So she got people really jazzed up and excited. They did all kinds of silly songs and stomping around and running. And I think it was just an immense relief to see kids having fun outside, to be out in nature, enjoying and learning was really special. And the cute little pixie on the right is Inga. She's basically brand new in the last 6 months to 4-H. And she and her family joined 4-H through Discover 4-H, which was that 4-H in a box, the first one we did, which literally was a box. I think that was how we got this family. So we are seeing some successes at recruiting a new generation of 4-H families. And I think that's really important. The only way we're going to grow and maintain even 4-H is to reach out to new families. So if any of you are interested in 4-H or know somebody who might be interested in 4-H, please let me or Michelle know and we'll help get them in. And another excellent thing that happened is we combined our resources all over the state and we mounted a virtual learning community, which is what VLC stands for. And what we found out is we have people who could teach all kinds of stuff. We had teenagers who could teach, we had volunteers who could teach, we had staff that had skills that we didn't even know. So Heidi Benson over in Chippewa, we did some pie making and what are those things called? The cream puff making, nicely attended. People really enjoyed that. And I'm working with the committee that is trying to make sure that we're creating a welcoming environment for all kids in 4-H. And we selected a book for a book reading circle called I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver. And that picture that you see was actually created by one of our youth that's on our committee, which I'm really proud of. We had another youth that did research on how to do the best job with our social media and emails and how to get marketing messages out, literally dug into how our messaging works for 4-H statewide. And that young person is from Dunn County, very proud of that contribution. And then we had another young person who said, hey, I'll record a video. I love talking. And so his mom recorded a 36-second video introducing this book, why we chose it, why we hope people will come read it with us this summer. And I just wanted you to see that as an example of, you know, we're doing 4-H a little differently. And again, to go back to your introduction in the public comments, broadband is really important. I don't have it at home, and much of the county that I'm working with, the families don't have it either. So the clubs who have been most sidelined and mothballed this whole last year have been some of my rural clubs that have no good cell phone signal. So they can't even they can't dial into a meeting on their phones. And they're having a real struggle trying to keep their clubs together, because 4-H is all about doing things together and doing things hands-on. And we're doing the best we can to offer the virtual opportunities, but what if you can't get there? It's sort of like offering something and then not providing the school bus. So I feel bad because I feel really good that we've done all these cool virtual things. We've got new families, people are getting together, they're learning from each other. And I still have some people who can't because they can't get to us. They don't have the technology. And that leaves me feeling like I got a foot in each world. I've got high speed here at work. I got iffy at home. I know what it feels like when you are getting dropped off Zooms and you can't see or hear. So that is something that is really important to me, and I hope we can get that fixed. And now I'm done. I just left a little time if somebody wants to ask questions.
Thank you, Louisa. And also thank you for your monthly newsletter, along with all the other educators, because we had a chance ahead of time to read about many of the things we talked about here today. I have one question, and maybe some of the other members have one. I know you work with the youth, the 4-H and the youth of the county, and I had a call about the Dunn County Fair. Will there also be open for seniors and other people to bring in exhibits to the fair this year? You know, Louisa?
Yeah, my understanding is we are planning as if we are going to have a normal in-person fair, and that, as far as I understand, does include the community side of things. Deb is really in the wait and see mode, and that's why I said more shall be revealed. I do not have a yes or a no answer for you. At this point, the fair board, on which I sit as an advisory member, is still meeting, and they are moving forward with contracts in their normal fashion for food and carnival and, you know, all the things that happen surrounding the junior fair, which is more where my hat is on. But I think community exhibits are also part of that fair that they are planning.
Thank you. Thank you. I see Tom Quinn is with us now. Tom, welcome. Glad to see you on board here.
Jim?
Yes. Questions? Open. Larry, a supervisor.
I don't know exactly how to say this, but I think Louisa's got some big time mending the fences to do with some of her rural clubs. I happened to be in a business to pick up a part here the other day, and I thought I was going to be there 15 minutes, but I was there an hour with two longtime 4-H leaders from rural clubs, just totally displeased with the new 4-H, feeling that they can't even have a meeting without first contacting Louisa. They feel that they've been left out from whatever it takes to have a club, and they're telling me that their clubs are half the members that they used to be. They're pretty upset about, at that time, the ruling was that there couldn't be any 4-H softball without kids outdoors wearing masks. And these two leaders from two rural clubs felt that they've been really left behind, and are just as negative as Louisa is positive. And I was really sorry to hear that.
I'm sorry to hear that as well. I do have regular conversations with club leaders. Some of them are doing great, and some of them have not met and are very upset about it. It's a lot of work. Back a couple months ago to get a club meeting, it was a lot of work. It's not nearly as much work now. And basically all anybody has to do is email me, tell me what their plan is. I have the opportunity to just make sure people are going to be safe, and then they can have their meeting. And with the warmer weather, a lot of people are meeting outdoors where the face coverings don't become quite such a division. We do have to follow the safety standards and guidelines, just like in the county building tonight. There are rules, and there are rules in 4-H that we do need to follow. So it's been very difficult. I'm glad that you raised that, Larry. I appreciate hearing that back. I did have a long conversation with a volunteer today, similar topics about Madison, the rules, and all of that. But I think we're getting through to an easier time, and my hope is that we'll get some people back through that. We may lose some people. We may also find some new people. And I hear the pain in people's voices when they can't do things the way that they have traditionally done them, and it is tough. I don't have an easy answer. I just try and ask for your empathy as I try and negotiate all of this, because these are not rules that I created, that I've put down on my clubs. I mean, I'm here to administer from county, state, university to my local area. And we do have rules that we follow in 4-H beyond the ones for COVID. There are a lot of rules, and that's part of what makes us the gold standard for safety for programs that involve youth and youth leadership. We're not in the news for getting in trouble doing bad things, partly because we're pretty much sticklers on, youth protection, making sure people are background checked, following our own rules for a safe meeting. And that pays off by not being in the headlines for bad things. And, I guess I should stop and see. We had another question as well. Was that you, Tom, that wanted to ask something?
Yeah, we can follow up on that a little later. Thank you. Any other supervisors?
I'd like to follow up.
Yes.
I'd like to follow up.
Yes.
I don't have grandkids in 4-H anymore because the procedures that they had to go through in whatever background checking they had just turned my son off, just so that they pulled out of 4-H, and I didn't even know about it. I mean, they don't tell their grandpa that kind of stuff because they know how his grandpa's going to take it. And it's just really disappointing to me that such an emphasis is on someplace other than some of the traditional 4-H stuff that has gone on in the past, and this idea that you have to get an okay from the county before you can have a meeting. And it hurts me deeply because that was my first career as a 4-H agent, and I did everything as a youth all the way to the Key Award. And when my grandkids don't want to be in 4-H because of whatever the new 4-H is like, is kind of hard to swallow. Thank you.
Yes. Anybody else? Thank you, Louisa, for your report. And point, we will then move on. Again, thank you. We'll hear from our area extension director now. Then, Catherine Mackey. Catherine.
Hi there. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your flexibility this evening. So I do have a few things to share, but I do want to just acknowledge the frustrations that were shared. And Supervisor Bjork, I know that myself and all the extension crew, all the way through the state level, I know that we very much care about your perspective, and it's valid. How you feel is totally valid. I think that we've all had different iterations of heartbreak because of COVID. And I know that 4-H is not the most, it's not a life or death thing. And it also represents so many good memories and just wonderful opportunities that we want youth to have. And so I can assure you that in Dunn County, Louisa is following the guidance that we have from state and our federal funding partners. I typically won't talk about employees at a public meeting, and in fact, I'm going to stop talking about her, so to speak, other than to say that all of our staff and our crew are very much attuned and aligned to the temperature in the counties that we work. We try to stay abreast on the local public health guidance, and we have to adhere to the state guidance that we have as well. So right now in the pandemic, it is more complicated and it is tricky. However, I can also assure you that we are in communication. I file a monthly report that goes up to our dean, and I have specifically expressed that there are some families in Dunn County that are frustrated by our policies, and we need to make sure that we're paying attention to our reputation and our relationships, not because it's our reputations, because we want to be effective at the work that we're doing. I know when I speak to other folks who are in my role that we're hearing some other things, not not everywhere, but it does happen across the state. And so we take that very seriously. We're trying to, I know our top level administrators are trying to, for a lack of better word, karate chop some red tape, just to help these.
Oops.
And thank you for sharing that. And we will be doing balance out the guidance that we have and being as responsive and respectful as we can to our county partners. So with that, I will move to a couple other topics. I want to talk about our community development educator search. We have had our first round of applicants who have submitted their applications. We did have a smaller applicant pool that I'm typically
You're cutting out, Catherine.
at about 11. We will be honoring all of those applicants and going through the process. We're also going to be keeping the search open until, I apologize, I don't have the exact date in front of me, but until sometime in June. And I think it'll be June 26th. So we will kind of be trying to balance out both of just keeping the door open if there are more qualified applicants and working to start screening applicants as we proceed. Excuse me. Locally, I'm working with Michelle on with the county that are undergoing the total title and compensation study. And we have been reviewing her job description, and we will be submitting that soon for our department. I was teasing Michelle that, she has to, as the employee, she has to go through and identify her job duties, and everything has to add up to 100%. And I said, that's not possible. Everything she does probably adds up to 200% because even if it says 5%, I know that she's going above and beyond. So working with the county on that. And then, of course, it's budget season already. So Michelle and I are starting to engage with that process and following the county guidelines for preparing our department's proposal that will eventually be coming back to the committee. We do plan on presenting a 0% increase, which are the budget directions. And we will be visiting every account, every line. We will not be taking approach of just do the same as last year. We will be asking each other, is this still needed? Why is it needed? Having the justification there. So want you to know a little bit about our process there. So with that, I would definitely be glad to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Catherine. And again, I would say what you write in the newsletter is always appreciated. And it gives us a little heads up ahead of time. So committee or anyone else, questions of Catherine at this point? I think you pretty well updated us. I noticed in your letter you talked about keep us save the date of September 16th at 10 to 12 for the extension meet and greet. Is that going to be in person?
That's a great question. That's to be determined. We will have to see kind of our prevailing public health conditions at that point in time. And of course, we have to blend together 3 different counties. So we have to make sure everybody is okay to attend. I'd love to have in person. And if we can't make that happen, we'll definitely go virtual.
Yeah, I understand. Sure, it would be nice if it could be in person, but we understand the policy. Thank you, Catherine. Anyone else before we move on? We always appreciate the report from all of our extension educators and keeping us informed regarding the county area council. So thank you. Stay healthy. And Lisa, thank you. No more questions. We will proceed on with the agenda then. I wanted to recognize, again, when we get to the program later, Kimberly, we're glad you're on board here because when we get to some of the business later on, Jim Zons and I will probably be calling on you. So thank you. I have number 6 on the agenda, an update regarding Dunn County Economic Development Corporation. I'll be very brief. I did not invite Bob Bassani to this meeting. He doesn't need to come to every meeting. I will simply say to you that Bob sent a letter to all the county board supervisors with what's going on and some of the things that are in play for Dunn County Economic Development Corporation. And I think all of you supervisors got that letter already. He also sent a similar letter to the city of Menominee and the other villages of Colfax, Elkmont, and Boyceville regarding what Economic Development Corporation is doing. And much of that has to do with recruitment, retention, and trying to keep the business that we have here in business and working with them. And it hasn't been quite as involved, which a little disappointing to me, but his plate is full. But we're going to be talking about broadband here in a minute and tourism, rural tourism. So that's basically my report on Dunn County EDC. I am no longer president. Gary Steen, who is also on the county board, is the president of Dunn County Economic Development. So he signed the letter along with Bob Bassani that went to all of you county board supervisors. So if you do have any questions, I can get that back to you, and he will be reporting. I do know that Bob Bassani met with a county manager and a county board chair. And from my understanding from Bob, that meeting went very well. So thank you to Chairman Bartlett and to County Manager Paul for meeting with Bob. Regarding broadband update, we'll talk again. As Louisa said, and I hear it from everybody during this past year, more than ever with the COVID, broadband in the rural areas is not doing the job. We don't have it. And I reported to you last month that we had 3 of our ISPs that got quite a bit of federal funding, state grants, to put in more broadband, more fiber. And we're talking about fiber optics. And those, remember, are telecom 24/7 here in Menominee that will be doing quite a bit of work around the townships around the city of Menominee and the townships of Dunn, Cedar, and Menominee. And then Bloomer Telephone up in town of Grant, and then reaching down to Colfax and reaching down toward Elk Mound. They have a grant, and there will be applying fiber. They're shovel ready to go. And then in the northern part of our county, up there in Sheridan, where our county board chair resides, and across the upper level of our counties of Sand Creek and Wilson and Sheridan, Mosaic got a grant. And so that money is going to be used. And hopefully after this summer, we're going to have a lot more people that will have the opportunity to have expanded broadband, but it's not going to come anywhere close to what we need. I did read, and you probably did too, that and I've asked Chairman Bartlett to report on this, and I think this is a good time to call on him. If there's any requirements that he knows of right now, that when we start getting some of this federal stimulus money or other monies that come down to the counties, earmarked for how it might apply to broadband or to other things in our county. So without money, these ISPs can't put in fiber. It's $25,000 to $40,000 per mile, and that doesn't go very far. And we're serving a small percentage of our county. I read hopefully we're going to be up to 30% of our people in rural Dunn County that will have access to high-speed broadband, and that means pretty well fiber. And the other options aren't cutting it yet. So I'm going to call on Chairman Bartlett at this point if he has any update for us at this point regarding where maybe some of those funds, because it might even apply to Supervisor Zons a little while when we talk about possibly some action that we want to take later. Do you have any update for us, Chairman Bartlett?
I talked to the CFO this afternoon, and there's nothing come down for, instructions on what we can use the money for yet. Right? Speaking of broadband, that the WCA, the National Counties Association, and other groups are recommending that we do not use the stimulus money for the same purpose that you'll be able to get a bunch of state and federal money for. That we should be using that for something different. So if you're talking about the money that the county is going to get, I would probably recommend that we don't use that for broadband, because there's other funding available for broadband from the state and federal level. I'm hoping that that money can be used for capital projects, and we'll be able to not have to borrow $3 million a year for the next few years to fund some capital projects. That's what I'm hoping.
Thank you, Chairman Bartlett. Supervisor Vance.
Well, I was just wondering, is your question that is some of that stimulus money specifically earmarked towards broadband, and it has to be, is that kind of what your question was, more than that it should be, it's just a big pot of money?
Should be or could be.
We don't have any direction or rules on that, but the way I understand, when we get that pot of money, we'll be able to use it on whatever group of things we can use it on. That there won't be any, like you have to use part of it for broadband, part of it for something else. It would be up to our discretion.
Okay.
But if you look at the stuff that WCA has sent out and other groups, they're recommending that we don't use the money, the stimulus money that the municipalities get for things that we can go out and get other funding for. There's other funding out there. There's lots of other funding for broadband, both federal and state. So that probably won't be what we'll use that money for. Then anyway, we could if the county board wants to, but they recommend that we don't use it for the same thing.
Well, thank you, Chairman Bartlett. I appreciate that. Now, I want to make sure we keep Supervisor Quinn and Supervisor Bjork online here. And if I haven't recognized you, do either one of you have any questions or things you want to bring up at this point of our chairman or regarding some of that? I shouldn't call it stimulus money. What, Chairman Bartlett, should I be calling it? ARP is what I wrote down. Whatever, we're all on the same page anyway, talking about. I read where we might get approximately $8.8 million and so obviously that all of us perk up our ears, and we look at our projects, and me, I perked up right about broadband and quite frankly the other things that have to do with this committee. Supervisor Bjork or Supervisor Quinn online, any questions? Hearing none.
Yeah, well, I don't really have a question, but I would think that if broadband is one, it's not unlikely that broadband would be designated, as Jim suggested, as a sort of a required element, and some kind of allocation towards broadband would be possibly part of the formula. But even if it's not, if it's an allowed activity, it seems like I for one, as a county supervisor, would argue that at least some of that money should be allocated towards promotion of broadband. Understanding that if there is there are further pots. I mean, the state has additional money that can be applied for. The feds have additional money that can be applied for, and there's probably additional money coming from the feds if there's an infrastructure bill passed. So this is not going to be our only kick at the can, but it does feel like an argument could be made that in this first round, that at least some of that stimulus money should be allocated towards that.
Thank you, Supervisor Quinn. Did you want to comment on it, Supervisor Bjork?
I just probably would echo what Tom had to say, and that, we've got to really make an effort to get as much broadband as we possibly can.
Thank you. And I would back it up again by saying to our county board chair and everything, I appreciate it. I think we will all have a supervisor an opportunity to discuss this, and we'll look at the broad picture. And certainly it will be one of the items that we will have a chance to talk about. And so we don't know yet. So I wanted it at least on the table today, so we start thinking about it. Okay. I'm sorry, Supervisor Lobo. I didn't mean to comment. Your comment.
I had a question. If we do focus on infrastructure, we're working on roads, is there a way to build in broadband, so we can run the conduit, so if we're working on roads, can we keep broadband
That
as
was,
part of it?
Sure.
yeah, we do that already. I mean, that was part of the broadband forward. What else are we? Broadband.
Telecommuter forward and broadband forward.
Yeah.
Which we are a county certified on both of those programs. And I'm Supervisor, I'm glad you brought that up. Those are two programs that, remember, we did get through, and we were one of the first counties in the state to be broadband, not broadband, telecommuter forward certified. And broadband forward is the other one. And what that does allow us, remember, is that we can get cheaper permits for the ISP, for the providers. And so we're saving them a lot of money as a result of this. And my thought was that maybe we should be looking at a way for some of these so that we could take some of that money and say to our ISP, our providers, that we'll pay the fees. You won't have any fees, even though that it's a huge amount, but I think 24/7 paid on the average of $3,000 to $4,000 per permit, I think, to get that. It's not huge, but it shows that we have an interest in what they're doing. And the only other thing you do remember is we always provide letters of support. And those letters of support that they have to send in to get the grants usually comes from Dune County Economic Development Corporation. And I hope we will continue to do that. And this committee could also be involved in letters of support if the county wants to do it that way. But that's another issue. Any more comments or questions regarding broadband from anybody at this point?
You mentioned when you just in your just statement that being telecommuter forward, that lowered the fees for Dune County. It did lower the fees for Dune County. It made us participate in the expense of those fees. Because now we're getting $100 per fee. And we used to get what it cost to go out there and measure and assess the situation of where it's going. So, because we've done this, Dune County is taken up roughly 75% of the cost of the fees already. We had a good example of that was with Mosaic last year, that they had put in for fees after the county board had ruled that we would do that. But before the state recognized that we were.
Right.
And so the highway department billed their regular fee of what it costs to go out there and do that. And it was substantially less. It was about a fourth of what the actual expense was. So, you know, Dunn County is doing more than just writing letters already for broadband. I
Well, that's
just
an
wanted to
excellent point.
that out, because
That's an excellent point.
you know, the highway is, you know, over budget, and part of the reason is we've taken their revenue.
And it wasn't only, if I might add, Chairman Bartlett, that Mosaic, it was also Boomer Telephone with their application in the Colfax and coming down the area where they came in later and they had paid some fees. And then after we were certified, I think we made an adjustment with them. So that's a good point. That should be made. Thank you. Yes. Well, we can talk about broadband and we will continue to try to keep it up front because it is an issue that people are asking about in these times. It's we're hearing it all over from as I said today, with rural people in the 4-H program and all of our school districts. And I know that every one of our schools right now are probably going to get some funding too, Chairman Bartlett, from this stimulus funding. And those school districts, and I don't know how they're going to use their funding, that's not up to us. So it isn't just counties, but I think school districts will.
Towns and villages.
Towns and villages and school districts will all be looking at within the requirements of how they can use that money. So just wanted Chairman Bartlett to bring us up to date a little bit at this point, and thank you very much. Appreciate it. We will stay informed. Now we can move on to possibly, I've called on Supervisor Zahns to talk a little bit about, remember we have that fund that was allocated to this committee last year, which could be used for possibly rural tourism or economic development. And we've discussed this, and once we make, we don't have to take action today, but I reminded Supervisor Zahns, who was prepared to update you, and he presented you with the raw material, to at our next meeting, I need to jump ahead here, at June 14th, but our executive meeting will be meeting the Wednesday before in June, because we need the second Wednesday, and we won't be meeting till after the executive. And after we take action, it goes to the executive committee. Just so you know that. Supervisor Zahns, you have done a lot of work and research right now and have come up with a letter that you passed out to everybody here.
Well, unfortunately, our supervisors that are remote do not have it.
That's right.
But I'm gonna share a presentation that has all the information that's in this so that everybody can see it. So, but one of the things that we've talked about was is in an effort to promote tourism, rural tourism, and economic development, having some sort of new website that promotes the county. It promotes kind of a hybrid, a combination of tourism destinations, rural tourism things to do, and development, with the idea that at some point, if the Economic Development Corporation does completely go away, at some point, there's going to need to be some way that the county gets information about economic development out to potential businesses and places that want to relocate to the county. So I was talking with a local web development company called Your Web Choice. It's individual I've worked with for over 20 years. He does what's called kind of a white label web development. He works for a lot of other companies that develop sites and kind of does the work on their behalf. And we've been talking for the last couple of months about about this idea and what we could do. So I thought what I would do is share a screen with the presentation that we put together. Let's see how well this works. It's my big monitor. Stop share for a second. Here. There we go. So the company is Your Web Choice, and again, they're a white label developer, which essentially means is that, like for example, if my company is wanting to hire, have somebody else do some work on the website, but it's under the auspices of my company, I will hire him. This company also works with a couple of other web developers up in northern Wisconsin doing their work. So that's a little bit about them. And did some analysis. Right now, when you search for businesses and attractions in Dunn County, and we're talking specifically like Dunn County wide, not just like Menominee, you get like a bunch of different results that are primarily a lot of Yelp, TripAdvisor things come up. So they're third-party websites. So it's information that might not be up to date. It's spotty, scattered. There are just a whole variety of different things, and it doesn't necessarily benefit Dunn County because it's third party. The county or the businesses in Dunn County don't necessarily control that information, so it could be out of date. It might not be accurate. It can't be updated easily. Plus, if someone like a business or somebody that wants to locate in Dunn County or someone that's interested in Dunn County clicks on one of those links, they go away from the county and instead go to Yelp or TripAdvisor and go to one of those sites, and they may not come back, or they may click somewhere else and be attracted to some other county or whatever. So that was kind of some of the research that we found. So the suggestion, which is what we talked about here, is to have a different Dunn County website that would be focused on tourism and business. That would be kind of a comprehensive view of like Dunn County businesses, economic development opportunities, and attractions in one spot. So visitors, whether they be visitors who want to just visit Dunn County for different tourism opportunities, or businesses would have like one spot they could go to that is concentrating on Dunn County as a whole, as opposed to just Menominee or greater Menominee, looking at the county as a whole. So the idea was to come up with what Dave and I, Dave's Dave at Your Web Choice, was come up with visitdunncounty.com. And we just kind of came up with our idea for a logo, register the domain name so it could be something that the county could use for this. And then the county would then have this site that would promote these different aspects. Again, benefits would be specific to Dunn County, rural tourism, and economic development, be targeted with those keywords that could drive that to the site. So some businesses or attractions that do not include those keywords could be listed on this site, so that again, people that are doing searches for it would basically come to this essentially umbrella site, would also kind of be a directory of businesses, because those keywords would be listed. We like to say that the website would like float all boats using search engine optimization techniques. SEO or search engine optimization would be a key aspect of the website to kind of funnel all that traffic in for those types of searches. Again, it is like a hybrid, because it would be not only the tourism people that would be interested in tourism or rural tourism in Dunn County, but also just businesses or people searching for information about Dunn County proper. So some of the features would be, there would be just a basic like page or several pages that has general information about Dunn County. Again, these are some ideas that Dave and I kicked around, and that's why I bring it to this committee, so that you guys are going to have different ideas, and you may have different thoughts about how we could do this, but this is just kind of our background from the two of us working on sites related to chambers of commerce and tourism and economic development from our respective businesses over the past 25 years or so. So the idea was to have like just basic information about Dunn County that would be like populations, square miles, maybe information about industrial parks, that type of thing, number of parks, boat landings, whatever basic information we think that would be important that is Dunn County specific. The other idea we thought would be really good would be to have like a Dunn County business directory, just a list of all the businesses in Dunn County, so that people could have, you know, just a general list of those businesses. A section devoted to Dunn County tourism attractions. So this could be ones that would not only just be Menominee, but also some of the ones in rural Dunn County, like the museum in Downsville, or the Railroad Museum in Colfax, and those types of things. And have a section that's devoted just to rural tourism, since rural tourism is a specific thing, and it could be, our idea would be to focus one area of the site just on rural tourism, so that we could kind of attract some eyes just to that specific category of development. Have an economic development information portion. At first, that would just link to probably information from the Dunn County EDC, but should the Dunn County EDC eventually go away, that information could be potentially absorbed into this site, so that it would be a place for it to reside if the EDC disappears. A section about maybe quality of life, again, to track information for businesses, and then like a Dunn County community calendar, an idea to have information about different events that are going on in the county that people could potentially submit to this site. Was the idea. Let's see. So we talked about the site would be developed by your web choice. The information for the site would be supplied by this committee, the Economic Development Corporation, plus one of the things that your web choice would be tasked with would be to be gathering information. This committee doesn't, you know, we don't have like a subcommittee devoted to providing information to this site. Maybe that's something that we talk about today, and whether that's something that this committee wants to do. But the idea is that, okay, we want to do this, or we don't. We need to have somebody that gathers this information, and that's what we would task your web choice with doing. We talked about the amount of hours that could potentially go into this, but once the site is up, somebody needs to maintain it, meaning that somebody's going to go to it. Information needs to be continually put on it. There's probably going to be emails that get directed to it. What happens to that? So at least initially, the thought is that your web choice would direct those emails that would come in. Either they would be sent to like Dunn County EDC, if it's a question about economic development. If it's a basic county thing, then maybe it's sent to some representative of the county if somebody has a question. If it's a question about tourism, basically in Menominee, maybe that email gets forwarded to the Menominee Tourism Committee. Or if it's just something really basic, being that David, your web choice, is also a Dunn County and Menominee resident, maybe something that he answers really quickly because it's something that he just knows. So the idea is that this committee is not going to be sucked into taking care of this site, that for the most part, it's going to be managed with the idea that that would be done for at least a year, and then this committee could vote on it and decide whether it wants to continue, whether we want to bring in interns to manage it, or however that might be. This is kind of, like I said, this is an idea to come up with, lay this on the table, and we as a committee decide how we want to approach it. So then we looked into some costs, and I presented it to Dave. So, okay, typically with a web development fee like this, we would be looking at, probably a major cost for this. And I said, so what do we want to do as far as like your company being able to provide this? And he talked about doing it for $3,500, which is about a $9,500 value, what you would normally be charging like a normal chamber or whatever, because he's looking at it, one, the altruistic value of kind of being a good Dunn County partner to being in the county, but also looking at potential business that could come from having developed a site like this is what he's looking at. Then the monthly maintenance and management, this would be that 15 hours a month for taking care of the site and answering correspondence, what have you, at $300 a month. And then there's the web hosting where the site needs to sit, and that's $20 a month. And then for the supervisors that are at home too, this is a shared proposal, so we can share it with everybody. This is just some of the sample websites that Your Web Choice has done. And again, the Hayward Area Chamber of Commerce, I think he's done their site 3 times in the last 20 years. So I created it. As new technology came available, redid it again. As new technology came available, redid it again. Same thing with the Cable Area Chamber of Commerce. I think in the last 20 years, his company has redone that site 3 times. And then there's just a variety of other sites from around the area that have been done. So that's kind of the idea for what he and I have been talking about for the last couple of months about how this could work. And again, I kind of see it, it's not something that would take away from, like, say, what the Menominee Chamber is doing. They have a site that is really focused on, it does have some Dunn County aspects of it, but it is really focused on Menominee, and it's really focused on putting heads in beds, because that's what pays for the tourism commission for the chamber. Whereas we don't, as Dunn County, we really don't have that aspect that we need to concentrate on. Our purpose is to get that information out, to draw businesses to Dunn County, to draw tourists to Dunn County. It's more of a public interest type of thing. So that's kind of where we come up with. So I'll throw it back to the committee to see what everybody else has to say.
Well, I'll make my first comment. Supervisor Zons has been working on this for some time. And occasionally I would ask him how it's going, and you can see what the work he has done. And I am thankful and appreciative, and for all your hard work, I think it's excellent. That's my opinion. One thing about this website is it doesn't go out of date like the printed. When you print
Right.
something, it can soon get out of date. And the hard copy then is you print it and shortly it's out of date. Now you can keep it current at all times.
Right.
That's one big advantage too. I said no. Let's hear from the supervisors. Anybody? Yes, Supervisor Vogel.
So will part of the development be finding a lot of these businesses?
Yeah, because that's not right now, that's not an aspect of this committee. So that's a big chunk of the development cost is the research that it's going to take for him to, and, you know, his people that he works with kind of go out, find the businesses to list and the other information. I said I would, I've taken a lot of photos of Dunn County over the years, and I would, told him I'd share the photos that I have to use on the website, so that it's something that he doesn't have to go out and do or get people to do, but a lot of it is going to be him basically having to either gather that information or having that information submitted by people, and if that's submitted, then it's going to have to be taken and put into the whole thing. That's also part of the ongoing maintenance. As I said, once this gets developed, kind of to your point, Chairman Anderson, is that once it gets developed, it's not done. It's going to be this ongoing thing where either new businesses are added, or if a business leaves or disappears, that gets taken off. It's an organic thing. So it'll be continually changing up and updating us. And we're figuring that it's probably going to take them like 15 hours a month, probably.
And if you'll see at the bottom of this page, and those of you on Zoom probably don't see this. Again, I asked Supervisor Downs if it's a $3,500, that's a one-time fee to set it up.
Right.
And after that, then it's $300 a month and $20 a month for the web hosting. So the first year, and then we look at it every year, whether it's wants to be continued or not. Kimberly is online here too, and we've been talking a lot about working not only with the Polk County Supervisor Bonds, but also with the Greater Menominee Tourism Committee. And you know, I'm gonna ask Kimberly if she has any comments or questions, because she's online here. So Kimberly, if you can hear us, do you have any thoughts?
Yes, I do. Thanks for including me on this.
Yeah.
Are you guys able to hear me? Can you guys hear me now?
There, thank you.
Okay. It sounds good. I definitely think that is a great idea, since our website, Explore Menominee, is more focused on the city of Menominee, like you mentioned, getting heads and beds, because that's how we are funded. We do have like tourist attractions throughout Dunn County on our website, but it's not as specifically focused to the specific cities throughout Dunn County, but more just the attraction. So it's definitely a different take than what our website has. So it's definitely a benefit to the county. We do have a specific county tab on our website that once your website is completed, we can add that website to our website to help direct people from our website to the Dunn County website, and then vice versa. If you guys want to link our website on the Menominee tab to direct people back to us, we can kind of go back and forth and kind of share that network, since we do have a large following on ours already, to help direct them to yours. We do have a business directory listing for shopping and dining for Menominee already. So if the web developer wants to reach out to us, we can share that information for him. So that should save a lot of time. We do have like all the correct phone numbers, addresses, business name, all of that, because we just added that to our website a couple months ago. So we do have that to help save on time, especially since Menominee does have a lot more. We'd be happy to share that information with him. But yeah, I definitely think it's a great idea, and I can help out with anything that I do know of the county, and then Menominee specific.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's a good cooperative type of thing, especially if people are looking at visiting Dunn County, they need some place, you know, if they're staying,
Right.
to stay,
And
and
that'll
we
be
can,
phenomenal.
instead of, the idea is not to duplicate that much information. It's mostly to be as complimentary as possible, and especially for the lodging aspect, be able to send them to the Menominee site for them to book their lodging. Would be wonderful.
Thank you, Kimberly. Obviously, this is the first time really getting into the meats of this, and I think that Supervisor Johns has given us a great report. So I will say, unless our Supervisor Bjork has his hands up.
Yeah, just a question, Jim. I'm not familiar, with how this would all work that well. But could it be such a thing that you would have different highlighted parts of Dunn County, different times of the year that whenever the Pickle Fest is, they'd be the highlighted part of the program, or the Colfax World Fair might be the highlight of the program, that's presented? I mean, does it change from month to month or season to season?
Yep, that can certainly be the case, and I'm sure that the Visit Menominee site is probably does that too, as far as like your own page changes depending on the season. So you could have something that showcases some of the events that are going on for specific times of the year, as well as that information, and also it just can have that the theme with either like different pictures of the fall or the spring or the winter, that kind of thing. Again, one of the things that Dave and I talked about is having this really focused on search engine optimization and having that be a strong focus of the site. So the more that information gets updated and changed on the site, the better that Google and the search engines react to that, to the site. So that kind of information, like you're talking about, Larry, is kind of an essential aspect of it. Again, that's kind of why figuring that at least 15 hours a month toward taking care of the site, because that's going to have to be continually updated and changed every month.
Okay, Supervisor Bjork,
Sounds good to me. Very good.
thank you. Do I say, Supervisor Quinn has his hand up. Go ahead.
Well, I just real quick, I think this is a great idea. I really appreciate Supervisor Zahns putting it together. I really think this is important. It could be a real boost to our committee and to the end of the county. So let's take a real look at it. Sounds good.
Well, thank you, all of you. And I would say, I'm sure glad to see that we can put the C big back in CRT of this committee. And any more comments from anybody here? The T.
You said the C.
The CR, I want the T back in the
Yes.
CRT, right?
Yes.
Yes, thank you for the correction. Well, that was an outstanding report from our fellow committee member, Supervisor Zahns, outstanding. And I will say to you right now that I don't know that we are ready to take action unless you feel, but I will leave that up to the committee right now. What do you think? Do you want to study this a month? Do you have more questions? This was, boy, impressive. And so I asked the committee, what are your wishes?
County Manager Miller has a.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, County Manager Miller. Caller, I didn't see you there. Go ahead.
That's all right. I've had my camera off. And I know I'm not a member of your committee, but I wanted to volunteer for the committee's consideration. I too am very pleased with the presentation. We've been talking about this kind of thing for a little while, and this is what we had in mind, but I will encourage that what happened next is that staff work with Supervisor Zahns on fleshing out the details. There are rules that we have to follow when it comes to the spending of money. We also have we have IT capacities ourselves that may provide some opportunities. I would recommend that Supervisor Zahns, Dan Dunbar, our Chief Information Officer, and perhaps others, including Corporation Counsel, because there are rules, meet next to further vet this idea. And then we should have a clearer picture to bring back to the committee. I think we could do it next month for the regularly scheduled CR&T committee.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that's an excellent suggestion. And I will ask that Supervisor Zahns will meet with Mr. Dunbar, you said, and Corporation Counsel, right?
Yes.
And then come back next month, and then we might be ready to actually take some action on it. So we've got a great start, and thank you, County Manager Miller. I think that's the direction we need to go, and I appreciate that. So I will then ask Supervisor Zons if you would set this up maybe with corporate counsel and our informational officers. And then we will always keep you in mind out there, Kimberly, that we want to work with you there at the Chamber of Tourism and the other towns that might have something interested in, and they don't have a tourism person, as I know directly, a Boyce or Colfax or Mountain, but this is all of Dunn County now. And so that's the direction we will follow, okay? Unless there are further questions or I see from anybody that we will hear a report, hopefully, can we have that by next month?
Yeah, that would be my goal, yeah.
Oh, thank you. That was very, very well done, and I really appreciate it. Thank you much. Well, folks, we're coming to the end of unless there's announcements, I would open up right now for anybody that cares to have any announcements from any member of the committee or anybody else. I will say again to you, Michelle, thank you very much for always being so excellent and making arrangements and accommodations. And she called me last Monday, just before I called her, and she said, Jim, are you going to get this budget stuff out? I said, yes. So thank you again, Michelle, very much. County Board's Chairman, Bartlett, thank you for help being with us here this afternoon. And again, back to our facilities people, thank you for setting this meeting up for us. I hope we passed the test, County Manager Miller, for the first committee meeting that we met in person. I enjoyed it, and I hope the rest of you did. And if there's no other announcements, I hear from anybody, the meeting's